Hey Crapsters, welcome back. I mentioned in my last video that I am in my brand new apartment, and I mentioned that I would make another video discussing that, and today is that day. I figured I would talk about what I love about this place, what I don't like about this place, you know, all the things that have been going on in the 2 months that I've been living here. Long story short, loving it so far. So this list of pros and cons is very, very one-sided, let's just say that. I figured I would do 5 things I like so far and 5 things I don't like. And let me just say, it took me forever to just even come up with 5 things that I don't like. So I had like really kind of like random tiny things that would seem to you like they're not a big deal, because most times they aren't. And I had to narrow it down to 5 for the pros. So I had to kind of either eliminate some or squish some together because they kind of are about the same thing. So largely positive. Let me just say that so far so no one gets the wrong idea about this place, because I think it is a really great fit so far, and I think that that's just going to continue to get better and better. So about 2 months ago, I moved into this wonderful apartment, and this apartment is in a senior community, actually. Obviously, it's not completely seniors. It's really just for anybody who needs a bigger list of care than most places can provide, or your family might be able to provide for you if you're living at home like me. But for all intents and purposes, it is a senior home. It's not a nursing home where you have around-the-clock care and you have nurses coming in and out and things like that. It's kind of like a step down from that, where you have your own apartment, it's all to yourself, you have a way to buzz for whatever you might need, whether it's medicine or food or any other thing. And other than those things, you essentially just have your own apartment. They can be as involved or not involved as you want them to be, which is great, honestly, for someone like me who doesn't need round-the-clock care just yet, but certainly needs help with a lot of things that most 30-year-olds don't need help with. So I'll talk about the 5 things that I like best about this place so far, and then the 5 cons that I was able to come up with after thinking for quite a long period of time. So without further ado, let's get into it. We'll start with the cons, because I figured it's good to end on a good note, and then you can see just kind of how minuscule these cons really are, just like I said. Number 1 is a pretty obvious one for most people my age, is that I feel a little bit too young to be here. I'm sure most people here, no matter what age they are, feel very similarly, so I'm not unique in that sense. But to be a 30-year-old where the average age is about 80, and then it goes up and up from there. I just had a lady a couple weeks ago turn 105, so brava to her. And there's not a huge problem with feeling out of place every now and then, because I might not know what these people are talking about, or that reference they make there, or the things that they say when they talk about their bad hip and their bad back and all the things that you see in the movies about old people talking about being old, does kind of make you feel a little bit out of place sometimes. And then I check myself and remember that a lot of these things that they're saying I can relate to. So again, not that huge of a deal, because for a young person being but living now in a senior center, I have as much in common with these people as I would with people my own age at this point, with all the history of hospitalizations and other healthcare issues, blah blah blah. So not a huge issue, but would be the first thing that would come to your mind as you begin to take those steps to finally decide to live in a senior community. That's just the first one that would usually come to most 30-year-olds' minds as they start to sign the papers decide to live in a senior center. But it's really not half as bad as it seems in your brain when you think about it. Like, oof, I'm gonna be way, way, way younger. So what? So what? It really isn't that huge a deal, especially when you think about how much time I'm spending by myself just because I can't get out of bed or leave my apartment that day. So my interaction with them can be as much or as little as I would decide whether I want to be around older people or not. But for the most part, they tend to be quite helpful and understanding and a positive part of this experience as opposed to the other. So I just kind of negated my first con on this list, but that is okay. Number 2 is actually bigger, I would say, than number 1 as far as being one of the harder things to deal with. The way we found this place in the beginning was because we were looking for a place for my 99-year-old grandfather to transition to, because he is getting to the point where he needs a lot more care than can be provided for him at home by my family members. And he's not huge on this idea at all. Not because this place isn't awesome. He's been here already a couple times visiting me, but because he just doesn't want to leave home, which is understandable. It's not really understandable considering how much money he's saved his whole life to be able to then come to a place like this when he needs that kind of care, as opposed to asking family members to do it instead. That part I didn't really understand for a while, because the way I ended up living here is when my mom said, oh, turns out Grandpa's not going to be thinking about moving to this place because he'd rather have his family be the ones taking care of him. And I said, without even really thinking, I said, oh my gosh, if I could have anybody other than my family be the ones taking care of me, that would be amazing. And not because I don't like being with my family, but because their job should really only be to be my family. They're adding the job of being my caretakers on top of all that because they love me and I need them and I need their support. But if we have a way to add people into this mix who can be that support more often than my family needs to be, so when they come and visit, they can just be my family, that would be the dream, is what I said. So that's when my mom and sister started scratching their heads and say, hey, maybe we can look into this place for Rosemary. And the rest is history. So, but that being said, the first few weeks, at least, of this transition period, which is always going to be a little tricky no matter what age you are, especially on the days where I was feeling at my worst physically, just super sore and super tired and needed distraction from people to kind of get my mind off my pain. But when you're feeling that lousy, first off, you don't really want to be around anybody. You prefer not to be around anybody because you feel so lousy and you know you're not going to be good company. But since you kind of need the company for the distraction, if you gotta pick somebody, my first choice would be someone in my family, usually my mom, my dad, my sister or brother, someone in the family who really gets this, who has been in from day one. So if I say some dumb thing about how I'm feeling or let a bad word slip out, or I'm cranky and I'm no fun to be with, they understand that stuff a lot better than the people I don't know very well. So I called my mom when I had that epiphany and said, oh my gosh, I totally get how Grandpa felt about whether or not he wanted to come here. Because at first I didn't get it at all. I didn't get why he wanted to have my uncles and aunts and my mom and dad do all his caregiving, which is pretty lengthy at this age in his life. It almost seemed, it was so out of character for him, it seemed almost a little selfish. Like, why would you want your family to have to do all this hard work when you have the means to be able to either go somewhere and have people take care of you or bring them into your own house? It was just, I didn't understand at all. And when I came here and had that transition and was feeling miserable, I didn't want to buzz my button and have someone come in to take care of me or sit with me and watch a movie, I wanted my mom. So that is something that will take some getting used to, needs to take some getting used to, because if I can have a wider array of people willing and able to be those distractions when I need, then my family gets the vacation that they have deserved for almost 10 years now. So while it was nice to have that real, opening of my mind to understand where my grandfather was coming from in a way that I totally didn't before, it was nice to be able to kind of finally understand that in a way that was kind of hard to deal with. So that was number 2 for me, just that that sadness you get as you transfer from one place to another. I call it with my therapist that being dropped off at summer camp feeling, where you're gonna have a good time, that this is gonna be a good fit, and you'll meet new people and make new friends and have all sorts of great experiences. But at the same time, when your parents are like, okay, bye sweetie, and you see them turn around for the last time, I'm 30 years old and I'm still like, don't cry. Like, it's really tricky, and I can't imagine it gets easier with age. So that'll be something I'll work on and will absolutely improve. I can feel it improving already and being easier. So again, it feels big. It's probably the biggest con on this list, but in reality, it's going to be pretty much non-existent in a few weeks, months, years. If I stay here, these people will become as close to me as my family, and then this won't really be a non-issue. Number 3, I kind of talked about already, about how you can kind of feel depressed in a place like this for multiple different reasons. It has nothing to do with the place, but what's going on in my life, when in my life it's going on, as opposed to when people normally have to deal with awful things like this. That alone is already depressing, and then you make this transition, this already hard transition, and you see some people here, not everybody, most people are really like living here. They like the community that it provides. But some, you can tell, have moved here not of their own volition, I'll just put it that way. If they had any other choice, they wouldn't be here, not because this place isn't awesome, but because it's not home, I imagine. So being around those people every now and then to say hi to so-and-so down the hallway, and he's kind of, he responds, he's polite, but you can tell he's not really very happy here. That's sad. That's very sad to see. You can see those people's, you can tell by their attitudes that it's not just a depression, it's also kind of being scared that this might be the last home that they know, and having to give up the home that they had for their entire adult life to come here would be terrifying. If I had a home before this that I had raised my family in, had lived with my partner in, and then slowly those things all start to break off, whether your children grow up and start having their own lives and their own families, if you're unfortunate enough to have your partner pass away, which is all too common in these sorts of places, then you're kind of like my grandpa, stuck by himself at home, kind of wondering what to do with the rest of his life. And I think that would be hard to deal with no matter where you are. And as someone who isn't feeling very similar as far as brain space, not knowing what's coming next for me, it's scary and it's very depressing. And again, it has nothing to do with this place in particular, because if I have to live in this kind of environment where I need special care, this is the place to do it. Let me just be very, very clear. It could be so much worse. I'm really, really glad that my sister found this place, actually. So I'm incredibly blessed. But those feelings of depression are very real. They're very real for even the cheeriest of the people in this place, because we're all here for a reason, and it's not necessarily because we like the food. It's because we have needs, and we need our needs met by people who can do them safely and professionally, and then take the load off whoever's been doing the care up until now. Family, friends, neighbors, anybody. So that's pretty much it for number 3, and much with the numbers before this, I know it's just going to get better with time. It'll get easier, it'll feel easier. This will just be my home, which it's already becoming faster than slower. And if I can do anything to help those people who are kind of stuck in that state kind of come out of it a little faster, then all the better. Then I get something to do that feels fulfilling. Number 4 would be some very, very minor issues with the staff and how I need to interact with them based solely on the special needs that I have, the pain disorder and what you can and can't do. And again, these complaints are teeny tiny, and everything that I've brought to them has been addressed and fixed. So that's why when my mom asks when we have those problems, she's like, do you still want to stay? Absolutely. If you can solve the problem or issue that I have when I give it to you, that's fine. Just because there was an issue isn't reason enough to pack my bags. If they can fix my issue relatively quickly, power to you. I actually had a big issue, which would have been like a drop-dead deal breaker if it hadn't been resolved, but it wasn't from the staff, it was from the paramedics that came when I called for an ambulance to go to the ER. This is the first time that they came to see me here as opposed to in St. Albans, so these guys don't know me the way that the St. Albans guys do. And they basically said, yeah, no, we don't transport people for this kind of thing. So I'm like screaming and sobbing in pain, and I have a care plan for which I go to the ER pretty regularly, and you can't transport me. Why? And so it was kind of confusing, and if that was going to be the case forever, that I was, for whatever reason, not sick enough or not in enough pain to warrant going to the emergency room, I thought that was my discrepancy, not theirs. Like, you call 911 and they bring you to the ER and the doctors can say, yeah, there's nothing wrong with you, and decide that you're wrong. But I guess I am incorrect on that. But again, the problem got resolved. We talked to who we needed to talk to. They explained to this one random dude who was mistaken that this is what we do for Rosemary when she has these problems, because she's a kind of a special case, and solved it almost immediately. So as long as the issues are being fixed, I have no intention of leaving. For some reason, when we were deciding whether or not to come and live here, I was under the impression that all of the nurses on their staff were residential, meaning that they lived in Vermont and were not travel nurses, as travel nurses being exactly what it sounds like, nurses who come in and out from all around the country and don't stay permanently. They just come and do their stint and go back to wherever they need to be. I have no problem with travel nurses. I've worked with travel nurses all the time. The only thing that I thought was going to be good about having all residential nurses is once these people got to know me and my needs, there was no need to have to go through all that rigmarole again, because it's a long history, and a history that, if you're my medical professionals, unfortunately, you need to know. I was looking forward to not having to have to do that all the time like I do with travel nurses, but if I have to do that with these travel nurses, like I said, I've done it many times before, it's not that big of a deal. So no huge issue there either. Again, see how teeny weeny these problems are. Number 5 is about as trivial as it gets, and it's not very nice of me to say, but I'll say it and keep it on the hush-hush, internet. Don't tell anybody. I'm assuming this place has been around for a long time. I don't know for sure when this place was built, but the decor in like the common areas and the lobby, and I'm not talking about people's private apartments. My private apartment is actually quite nice because my mom did an amazing job decorating, but the decor, in the dining halls and the other communal areas is a little dated. It's a little dated. They have couches and chairs halfway down, up and down the hallways in case people need to sit for whatever reason, which is good for me because I can sometimes get dizzy. And I sat on one couch once and like a cloud of dust literally came up a little bit. So that was kind of, and it looked like it was going to do that before I sat on it. So that was my fault. So the fact that they haven't taken a little bit money out of their budget to get a little more modern decor is about as little of an issue as it can be. So no worries there, no problems with it here. Again, I love what my space looks like, and pretty much everybody else's space I've been to so far has been very, very nice as well. So not a big deal. Those are the cons that I could come up with in half an hour of brainstorming. So now let's move on to the pros, which are much, much bigger and much, much more important, in my opinion. Number 1, I get my own place. That seems like kind of not a big deal for a 30-year-old, but as a 30-year-old who has been living at home since this whole debacle happened, with a couple exceptions of my own apartment here and there that ended up not working out, I've been living at home with mom and dad. Kind of puts a little bit of a stint in your social life when you want to have a date, or you want to have anybody over really for that matter, and you say, oh yeah, come on over to my mommy and daddy's house. Yeah, that kind of, doesn't sound right. Doesn't hit the ear right to my friends who are around my age. So having my own place is gonna open up my social world tenfold, especially now that COVID is becoming less serious, knock on wood, in the sense that we're not in quarantine and lockdowns anymore. So loving this, loving being able to have people over whenever I want, it's awesome. So that alone for me is reason enough to grab on to this place and not let go for a very, very long time. Number 2, I've kind of touched on. I have all the care that I could possibly need. Anything I need, I can buzz for. Anything they can't provide, they can send me to the ER if they need to. So all my care is being managed, and it doesn't have to be managed by my family. That is huge for me, to try and do my best to be as little of a burden to them. And I use that word with a bit of a cringe to it, because people with disabilities aren't burdens. People who have special needs aren't burdens. But that doesn't mean that I don't feel that way quite an awful lot, and I'm sure many people could agree. So, for lack of a better word, if I can be the smallest burden or just extra amount of work to my family's day, to my mother's day, my dad's day, my sister's day, if I could just make that as small and insignificant as possible, then I've done my job, because they don't deserve to have to deal with this and me and all the crap that I need all the time. They need breaks. They need to be just my family and not my caretaker. I imagine this will be very, very beneficial in dating and romantic relationships as well, because one of the first things that my therapist gave me advice as far as this whole mess and being disabled now is try really, really hard to not have your partner kind of fall down that slippery slope into becoming your caregiver. So that's what I've been working on since I heard those words, to be as little of a need for caregiving for my loved ones as possible. If that means dumping the job on somebody else and paying them for it, I definitely prefer that. I like being with my mom and have her just be my mom. Just watch a movie with my dad and that's it. If I need something, I buzz my button. He doesn't have to get up. It's really great. Number 3 is actually huge, not just to me, but I'm pretty sure to everyone who comes to live here. We're all looking for a sense of community. These are people who, like I said, since they're older, they've, if they have children, they've left the nest. If, some of them have lost partners. A lot of these people don't have much of their community left to just be with them and spend time with them. So finding a place where it's not just a place to live where a nurse can come and give me my medications, but a place that people come together and support each other and care about each other and get to know each other. I can see these people easily becoming like family to me. And I've only been here 2 months. I've always been kind of an old soul anyway, even before this whole debacle with my arm and my spinal cord. I had a date night every Friday night all through high school with my grandfather who lived next door. I would run down on Friday night and we would watch Law and Order together and dance to the theme song. So this kind of thing is right up my alley anyway. I've always really gotten along with more seasoned people, let's just put it that way. They just have so much advice and experience and history, and even without the advice, even if it didn't benefit your life at all the stories and things they say are just so interesting. They've been around 2, 3, sometimes 4 times as long as you. They've certainly seen more. So for the most part, I'm all about sitting down with a bunch of elderly people and knitting, and I'm trying to get a knitting circle started. I'm trying to get a knitting circle started because I'm 90 in my brain. I'm also 5 and watch Disney movies. For someone like me who's always been kind of that way, this is actually a really good fit, because all these people are looking for the exact same thing I'm looking for, which is people to be with, people to understand what I'm going through, and I understand what they're going through. And if that can turn into something even bigger, and I can find a purpose out of all of this, meaning I can, bring a little light into someone's day just by knocking on their door and saying hello, or dropping off a newspaper for somebody, little tiny things, because I can't do a whole lot. These people get awful grateful for not very much. It doesn't take a whole lot for these people to be like, wow, thank you. So this place is gonna love me, and especially my mom, who is the queen of, can I get you anything? Like, she's loving this so far. She's loved everyone that she's met so far. She's making all sorts of friends. She's getting as many cards from, like, welcome cards that I get from residents and my neighbors. She's gotten as many cards as I've gotten. So, and she's not even living here. So this is, again, right up our alley anyway. This is gonna, for the most part, be a lot of fun, I think. So I'm really looking forward to it. Number 4 would be that the staff is so nice. Everyone I've met so far has been just lovely. Everybody. There's people from all over the world. There's people who speak different languages. It's really interesting. So I've got signs on my door in like 5 or 6 different languages. It's really fascinating. And they're all just as sweet and kind and wonderful as can be, and you can tell that they really support each other and that they're, for all intents and purposes, a little tight-knit family. So we all kind of support each other in our ways. The patients support the nurses and the nurses support the patients, and that's our little circle of life over here. And so far, it's a really good fit. And then number 5 was the reason I decided that this would be a great place to move in the first place. It might not be the most important pro on this list now, since I've found so many other great things that I like about this place, but practically speaking, this was why we decided to move. It was to be closer to the emergency room, because where I lived before this, they had to drive 45-50 minutes to get to the emergency room when I needed, and now I'm about 10 minutes away. So, especially for someone like me who is already has a tough time driving when I'm feeling normal, because it's very painful, the bumps and the kind of vibrations of the car. When I'm in a flare at a 10 out of 10, that stuff is way, way worse. It's worse in the ambulance because it's bigger, the bumps are bigger, you feel every tiny, teeny little pebble on the ground, it feels. So that was why we were looking for a place closer to my ER long before we found out about this place. So this checked all the boxes for me, and then checked all the boxes so far that I didn't even know that I had. So really, really grateful to be here so far. Really grateful for the opportunity that they gave me to come here. So I thank everyone for coming up with this brilliant idea, for my sister for saying, hey, maybe Rosemary could live there, not just Grandpa, thinking of me at all, and just being that considerate has led to this really, really amazing change for the better. So I'm really, really excited for the future, and things getting better and better as each day goes, because so far that's the pattern. So far things have been slowly but surely improving, and that's all you can do as someone with a disability or any kind of injury. Just improve what little you can every second of every minute of every day. And if you're not improving and you just need to hold on for dear life, then that's just as admirable. So thanks so much for checking this video out, guys. Hopefully I'll be able to make more videos talking about this amazing place. Maybe I can make some in the common areas, like when we play bingo and stuff. I never played bingo before, but now I'm obsessed. That's a story for another time. So thanks again. Leave comments if you had anything to say about what I said about living in this new place. If anybody else with disabilities has had a similar experience moving into a new environment, please share those stories. This is really just all about sharing experiences and learning from them and being able to say, that happens to you too? Oh my god! Me too! Like, that's huge. That's really huge for people like us who are kind of, gratefully so, but we're in the minority. People, not a lot of 30-year-olds are feeling like this. So to find anyone who says, no, I get it, is liquid gold. It's just priceless. So thanks again, guys, so much for checking this out, and I will hopefully see you guys very, very soon. Bye!